you talking about?
Are you recording right
Yes.
now? I'm talking about SEO and content writing. Do you want me to be looking at that?
Sure. Gypsy, what are you talking about?
He's talking about the glory of potty training and how tedious and long of a process it is.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I'm going to be talking about web design and branding and how that applies to bloggers tonight. Excited.
So we have our format here is 10 things bloggers need to know about branding and web design. And Gypsy wants to share a couple points on that. No, just kidding. The first one is make sure that you have clear metrics for success and sufficient reasons to accomplish them. I think it's important to figure out what is going to be a successful website for you. So if you're trying to get email subscriptions, if you're trying to sell products, if you're trying to sell your consultation services or your realtor services or what have you, to really establish what means it was successful. So if it's a contact form submission, if it's a email list subscription, selling an item, whatever it happens to be, figuring out what means success for you. If you're at this level, setting it 20% higher and then setting a date, slapping a date on there, figuring out what really means success. And then also figuring out why it matters to you, because it's really easy to stop blogging or to kind of like let up on it because you didn't really have a sufficient reason to do it in the first place. For me, it's in conjunction with my services. I want to keep blogging also for the SEO factor of it, and to provide value to an audience and build my personal brand. But I have that compelling reason to kind of figure out what that is for you, and have those clear. This is success. I'm getting 10 email subscriptions in 3 months, or whatever it happens to be. It can be humble, it can be extravagant, but try to make it realistic.
Yeah, and something to add to that too is just you have to know that writing establishes you as an expert in your field. And doing that consistently, me and Tim are very much into this podcaster named Sean West, and he preaches about consistency so much that people don't notice when you do something new or something fresh. They don't care. They don't have time for it. But what people do notice is when you're putting out these blog posts consistently. Maybe it's the same day every single week. Maybe it's every day. But making sure that when you do post, it's consistent. So, to add to that. But my point that I was going to make is most people scan before they read. Like I was saying, people are very busy. They don't have time. So thinking about how am I structuring the content on my website, on my blog posts. A couple of ways that you can better the scannability of your content is by designing your keywords and highlighting them, whether it be through color, whether it be through usage of typography, or maybe a background color or something like that. It doesn't matter. But figuring out what are those important keywords that people are searching for, and how do I make those stand out on the site. Another technique is to, when you're creating a headline, you're wanting that to stand out, and wanting it to catch people's eye. But making the sub-headline is also an important thing. Don't make it something cutesy or something clever. Think about what's a valuable thing that I'm putting out there for people to read. What's the valuable subhead that's going to bring people in further? Yes, you're grabbing the attention with maybe the photo or the headline, but the sub-headline also has a job to do. Making that more valuable is important. Also,
I just want to throw something in there real quick. A marketing mentor of mine who's been in the game a long time, he always advised me when writing, if you get to the end of your writing and these headlines are just introducing a paragraph, and they don't really have any value of their own, essentially taking whatever is valuable within this paragraph or 2 or 3 and trying to put as much of that into the headline as possible, because some people just won't. They're never going to get to that paragraph. And you still want them to associate the post with quality. Sometimes I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'll share a post on social, even if I didn't fully read it. I don't know if that's just a guilty
It's just
thing I do, yeah. But I think people are willing to do that if they know for sure it's valuable. So if you made it, if they've scanned and they see in those headlines those valuable bits, like I can take away this, I can take away that, then they might still share. So I think that's important.
Yeah. Utilizing bulleted lists. So when people are scanning, what are the main things that they're grabbing onto? A good way to make those stand out and to have people catch and latch onto those main things is by using bulleted lists. So that's just another technique. Also something to think about is when people are searching for something, they have that so clear in their mind of the value that they're searching for. So a lot of the time, people will not read your blog post unless they're 100% invested into it, right? So gaining that interest from utilizing maybe these techniques or any other techniques that you find out from experience, that's really important. People, a lot of the time, they're just skimming. They're trying to find that meaningful piece of information that they're searching for. So thinking about how your audience behaves, what your audience is interested in, and finding those pieces and making those stand out in your individual posts is important.
Yeah, third point, make it dead simple for people to know what it is that you do when they land on your site, and easy as hell to take the action you most want them to take. It should be front and center. So, good rule of thumb, I always say, like, if somebody comes on your website and they blur their eyes, they should still be able to know right away what you do. So if you're brewing beer, should be beer up front and center. You shouldn't, it shouldn't take them a little while to get to those photos, and it should be. I think same thing goes with the headline. If you're selling something, letting them know right away what it is. Is it for me? So like calling out your demographic. Whatever, you're a beer, you love these local shops or whatever, calling out who it is you're talking to and calling it out the key value proposition that you have. Good rule of thumb, I think, is don't make me think. I shouldn't have to think about it at all. I should know right away. For us as web designers, a lot of our job is, we figure out what the core thing is that you want people to do on your website. Is it the contact form submission? Is that purchase? And we bring those things up front and center. We put it into call to action buttons. I'm sure some of you are aware of what a call to action button is. So you have a call to action button right on the front of the website. It's kind of a common web design convention. With these buttons right out front and center that you've seen. I don't think that means you should shy away from it, though. I think it's kind of a mature, web design has kind of reached a mature pattern, maybe like a plateau for the time being. But the reason partly is because these are effective. So people will have a learn more button and a get in contact now or browse our products. And those buttons, you've established what the key actions you want people to take, and you've offered it to them right away. And I think as well, it's extremely important to have that at the end of any content. So if they get done with a service page or they get done with a blog post, to have those call to actions again at the end of that post or the end of that page, and allowing them to essentially, once again, not have to think, to know what they need to do next. And to making it, think of it as kind of like the obvious next step. You want to have that obvious next step available. You don't want to have anyone get to the end of a page or a post and think, that was good. And they're not going to think about, what do I do next? They're just going to go somewhere else. But you could be the one offering them what to do next. So that's an opportunity.
Yeah, and something to add to that is you need one main call to action look or design. If you have everything standing out, nothing stands out at all. So Take that into consideration when you are building the websites that you're on, or if you have a current design already. One thing needs to stand out on the page, and then you need a secondary call to action. That needs to be a lot more muted than your main call to action. You need to know what your users are looking to do, first and foremost, and that needs to be your main call to action. And that obvious next step that Tim's talking about, that needs to be present on every single page. Okay? So, fourth point. Is your website mobile friendly? If it's not, it needs to be. Mobile today, people are using mobile more than they are on desktop. So there is a great chance that a lot of your users are using their phones when they're looking at your content. You know, how frustrating is it to you when you go on a website and you're having to pinch, swipe left and right to view all of the content, or even trying to get to a web page? You get frustrated, right? And you more times than not, you leave. You don't even stay on that website. So take that in consideration with your own. Also, you want to make sure that your user is receiving the best experience possible, whether that be them using a mobile computer, a mobile device, or a desktop. It should be a good experience from any device that they choose to view your content.
And I mean, it's also a search thing now, right? So recently Google updated its, not algorithm, but essentially its software to penalize sites that are not mobile friendly. So that's, I mean, it's just, you guys know that that's important. And I think, you know, a couple key things on that are, you want to make your buttons, if you're on your phone, you should be able to tap with your thumb, and it shouldn't be super close to another one. So that's kind of a rule of thumb. It's 44 by 44 pixels, but you know when a button's too small to tap on a phone, and you get that. But Google can actually essentially see, I don't know, I always like humanize it, but essentially can look at your website and see if it has tap targets that are less than that size, 44 by 44 pixels, and it essentially counts that against your website, and it will push your website down the rankings.
How do you make sure your website's doing all that?
Yeah, well, one of the things that, like, for instance, if you guys are working on your own websites, whether it be Squarespace or WordPress or whatever the platform is, or, you know, maybe you have a more intense content management system than that, a lot of the newer themes, skins, all that, they're going to have this stuff built in. So, I mean, it's not like we're saying, I mean, you just need to keep your website updated every couple of years, essentially. Okay. If it's a medium to large company, it's hard to redo a website every 2 years. I mean, it's kind of expensive, right? But if you're a smaller blogger and you don't have like crazy deep content and categories and things like that, it's a little bit easier to update your skin. I mean, you can, or your theme, you can keep your branding consistent still at that point, though. And I think nothing wrong with updating a little bit more often when you have not as intense of categories and, you know, sub-services and all that.
So if we have something like my blog is mobile responsive and everything, so when I'm in the back end of it on my computer or whatever, I don't need to worry about the 40 pixels or whatever it is.
Well, buttons you for sure do. And if you're doing something custom, it's just, I mean, we work in this a lot, but it's CSS, right? So the CSS is what styles the HTML. If you have a button, you just would make sure that its width and its height are taller than 44 pixels.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't know. Do you guys ever touch CSS in your blog posts at all, or probably not? It is scary. Hire us to do it. It's too scary. It's so scary. No, but you know, there's little bits and pieces that you can pick up, and I think that there's occasionally it makes sense to do that. Otherwise, you know, perhaps you have an image that you link. You know what I mean? That's kind of your button, your next action. You put that at the end of your post. You say, download my ebook and sign up for my subscription or whatever. Make a button. You know, make a image that's a button. Find a way to do that. and link that image. But yeah, just going back to the whole have a call to action at the end of your blog post. But yeah.
Yeah, and just so everyone is clear, you mentioned that yours is mobile responsive. That's what we're talking about, is responsive, not a separate mobile site. Google likes it when all of the content is in one place, in one website. So.
And also, it's not fun to update two sites.
Right.
Like, you know, the days are gone of the separate mobile website, and you're like, I used to have to update content on like menus for restaurants on the mobile site, and then you're doing it on the desktop, and it's just kind of a pain anyways. So it's just, yeah, it's better to have the same content, and your responsive is just rearranging it, essentially.
Do you guys know of a subscription, email subscription, like that you can use for, because I really don't like the pop-up thing. So do you know of anything else I can use?
I would suggest try, like, at the end of posts or in like your sidebar or something like that. I mean, I've worked with MailChimp a lot, so that's the one that I can suggest. You know, there's MailChimp makes it easy with like snippets of code that you can throw into your site in various places and ways, and they try to make it very easy, and they're pretty popular, so they have a lot of yeah.
So that they can just make the code and you throw it on your sidebar or something. That's pretty easy.
MailChimp makes it pretty easy to get like a little form and.
Gotcha.
You know. And you know, one of the things I've done essentially with working on WordPress, so I'm using Gravity Forms and MailChimp, and essentially I am giving away an audiobook on my site, and I have them give me their email address, and then I give them the audiobook. So that's like a nice way to do it too, is you're giving away value. I always like to suggest, like, I'm not going to spam you, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to send you 5 emails a year.
Yeah.
And so, like, I always say that because I hate getting like 10 emails a month from somebody. So whenever I'm doing that, I say, you'll get, you know, maybe you're not 5 emails a year, but saying I'm going to only send you this many.
Right.
Yeah. But I think it's like good to give something away.
Yeah, I know a lot of bloggers do like downloads, like screen, like printables and stuff like that.
Yeah, digital content is great for that.
So my next point here is your logo should be consistent on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Snapchat, and hopefully your smiling headshot too. You know, branding is your face too. So your logo, yes, it's extremely important. But also you can get headshots here tonight for $75. That's crazy cool if you don't have them already. But I just think like people associate you with quality if you have decent photography too. And I think that's extremely important in web design. It's so hard to emphasize that to people because they're like, well, we came to you for a website. And we're like, well, we gotta have something to work with here, and the photography is a huge piece of that. You know what I mean? So if we don't have the right photography, it's really hard, and you kind of got to make like a more illustrative website or what have you. But I think photography is a really good step to make with a new website. Getting some photography done, or if you're decent at doing it yourself, to me it requires a little bit of an eye. I mean, I'm not suggesting doing it with your iPhone, but like, there's cheap digital SLRs if you're into that you can start to take your own photographs. I'm guessing some people here are already doing that since we're talking to bloggers, though. Decent, like you're trying to take some photos too of your stuff? Yes? 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 Yes. Well, anyways, you should be.
So can you get by with an iPhone, or do you no?
I really suggest getting just a cheaper digital SLR, like a Nikon or Canon, and kind of just reading up on Amazon and finding a decent one. And I mean, or asking parents for Christmas or something. Hey, it's good timing on that. But yeah, I mean, the one I got is like $500, and I still don't consider myself a photographer, but you can get better shots that way. And I like to be able to have that option, to be able to get decent shots. The difference between a digital SLR and an iPhone is fairly pronounced. You know what I mean? But, I mean, and even from there, like a newbie with a digital SLR to a professional photographer is really pronounced too. So, I mean, if you can pay for some photographs of you successfully doing your service or selling your product or your like beautiful shots of your product.
Yeah, I'm only going to back that up and say that you need to give a crap about how your posts look visually. Okay, people are visual creatures. Look at Instagram. It's one of the most strongest, social media platforms right now today. The reason for that is because they're so focused and curated on, visual elements. People are visual creatures. They love to put a face with the content that they're reading. It just kind of gives it more of a story. It gives it more of an experience. So going that extra mile and caring a little bit extra about how your posts look will only help. So create custom images. We have some resources. You want to?
Yeah. So if you guys just want to reference this later, we made notes at timbdesign.com/bloggers. You can check stuff out there, but Morgan, our friend who's putting this event on tonight, likes this service called PicMonkey for her blog posts. There's other ones, one called BlogStomp and one called Canva. This is for if you guys are not Photoshoppers or what have you. We think it's really important to have some kind of visual thing for your blog posts.
Yeah, it's as important as color. I mean, it's amazing to me coming into work and working with different clients how color is it's such a passionate topic. Images are the exact same way. People expect it online now. If you don't have an image that goes with what you're saying, people get frustrated almost. It's funny, but it's true.
And, that visual content on like Twitter and stuff like that does so much better. Like if you look at a text post on Twitter for a blog post, and versus like one with an image and just sharing it that way, it just takes up more real estate, first of all, on your Twitter feed, and then secondly, like I feel like it's just more professional in a way too.
Yeah.
Maybe you get some words on the picture too. You don't have to waste the words on your 140 characters. Save some words.
Exactly. Save it for hashtags.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of visual noise out there right now. I mean, look at Twitter. It's overwhelming almost. But what will make your guys' posts special is the content that's behind that and how it relates. People will care a lot more. So.
The topic that I was talking about with branding, I was saying it's your headshot, it's your logo. I really think of it as it's the story too. It's the story of a successful interaction somebody's having with your product or service, and that's kind of the way I think about a brand. Is yes, that logo is kind of it's a beacon. People can look to it and say that's your company or that's you or whatever. But the story of somebody having a successful interaction is another thing that's important to feature on a website. We talked about creating the imagery right up front.
It's like
Is this...
Get friendly.
Okay. All right. 1 second. Gypsy, what the fuck? Here, come here. All right. Yeah. All right. All
She
right.
always opens her mouth when you.
All right. So I think about that, like, let's all close our eyes for a second and play the video through of somebody interacting with your product or service or your blog in a very, if you're not selling a product or service, in a very positive way and having a good experience. Imagine them smiling. Imagine them drinking a beer. Imagine them getting into their first house. Their kid is in their room looking down at a lake and with their dog, and they're saying, "This is so nice." And that, to me, that positive scenario, and you guys can open your eyes if you're actually closing them right now. And that, God damn it, she's licking her asshole. No. All right, so that positive interaction that somebody's having, that to me is what you should try to feature front and center on your site, and that is branding to me. That logo, that image, but then that scenario, and how can you best feature that visually and with text, what that means and why it matters. What brand image are you leaving, Gypsy?
Christ. Yeah, so as a designer, I wholeheartedly believe that the more simple you leave things, the better off you are. Today is the age of experience, and people today can customize the experience that they get when they walk into their front door at home with smart objects today that communicate to each other from room to room to room. Your website really is no different. The only difference is that you're the one who's creating it for your target audience. So just kind of keeping in mind how important it is to communicate with your audience. What are they wanting to see from you? What do you want to say to them? Giving that perception, that brand perception right away is awesome. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. That's a universal designer language that we all like to use, and the more simple that you can keep things, especially when it comes to your navigation. How am I taking my user from point A to point B? Where do they want to go? How do they get there? How quickly can they get there? Is it simple? Is it easy? Asking all of these questions for your own website it'll take it to the next level. You'll gain more conversions that way.
So who has a website here right now? Is that everybody? Mm-hmm. God damn, of course I have. So I really feel like if you don't have the right content on your website, that design can't save you. So I think honestly, I almost suggest don't invest in a new website if you're not driving the right kind of traffic right away. Figure out how to drive that traffic, and then the website can justify itself. But to me, it's that content that's so important. It's almost more important than design. They go hand in hand. But I suggest, I have Google Analytics on my phone. I have the app. I can kind of look at the traffic. Why are people coming into the site? I see the posts that are doing well, and I know that I need to make more content like that. And to me, that engine has to be revving and running. Otherwise, this site does not justify itself. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. I don't need the website if my content is not driving any traffic. So, yeah, it's huge. It's to me, it's bigger than design.
Yeah. To give an example, we had a client come in and he sells like tools and other home improvement stuff. And he came to us asking, what can I do to improve my site? So the first way that we kind of approach this is by user testing. We took 3 independent web users and we tested their reaction for his site. And me and Tim actually came up with a question to take them to a specific page, like they were looking for a screwdriver or something. And then we also gave them the option to go to their competitor sites. Well, all 3 of them became so frustrated that they couldn't get to this one specific screwdriver that they stated that they would want to go and buy products from their competitor sites just because it was more easy. So you can imagine how powerful it is to make that experience simple for people.
Yeah. Agreed. In that situation, like the scenario called for a really prominent search because there are so many products, so many categories, and search in that situation is even more important on mobile because the way people use mobile websites, I don't know, like think about Amazon, their search is right away because people aren't really going to categories at all anyways. So it's just a matter of, in that situation, making it really search really prominent. And I think, principle here for you guys being have some people that aren't super familiar with your website check it out and give you feedback. Don't take it as gospel, but take it as, like say, try to do this thing and make it the thing that you really want them to do on your website, and see how you can make that easier to do.
Yeah,
because it's important. Like when you see somebody struggling with your website, it makes it easier to like figure out how to fix it.
Yeah, or you can do what we do and go to usertesting.com and sign up and get random people's opinions that have no tie emotionally to you, and we'll give you honest feedback.
Yeah, that's good.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes people don't want to hurt your feelings, so you're going to be kind of sheltered from the honest feedback that you're really craving. So looking for opportunities like that if you really want to know the honest truth. That could be kind of scary sometimes, but it'll really help.
Random feedback?
Yeah.
Yeah, the resource is usertesting.com.
Oh.
And they will give you kind of some like ideas for questions to ask, but then you can specify also like maybe what the key things you want people to do on your website and like write those questions in there. Yeah, I read an interesting post one time. I was talking about like essentially what you're saying there is like everybody's your mom in this scenario because they want you to feel good about your site or your company's site. So it's hard when they are super close to you to give you the most honest feedback. So yeah, do we have any other points we should go over?
Yeah, so my last point here is to gain new readers, you must first gain their trust. And the best way that I have found that you can kind of encourage this is by utilizing high quality design, high quality professional design. So like Tim stated earlier, you need to have the right kind of content. And the way that I like to view web design is, you have your valuable content, right? Content is more important than design. And I'm a designer, so that's huge coming from me. But content is, okay, so I said this last time, but the way that I kind of like to see it is your content is like people. And say you're going on a road trip, right? You want to make sure that the vehicle that you're using for this road trip serves all the purposes. So you're going up in the mountains in Colorado. You're not going to take a smart car that can only fit 2 people if you have 5 and you're going up in the mountains. You need something that's going to be able to handle that, like an SUV or something. So making sure that you kind of structure your website around the content in that same fashion will only help support the message that you're trying to say to your target audience. Also, it's kind of like getting gussied up for a professional event. How do you want to look? What's the brand perception that you're giving off by coming to a professional event? Are you going to show up in your pajamas? No, you're going to look really nice. So design's the same way. Just to give you an example of the importance and where I'm kind of coming from, again, with a user test, we had a client that specializes in dry cleaning, and they actually had a decent design to their website. So it was kind of interesting. We did another 3 user test, and every single user really liked the way that their site looked. And again, we also showed them the competitor sites, and they actually looked at the design of this client's site and said, oh wow, I completely trust them. They look like they really know what they're doing. I would rather choose this company over their competition because they look like they know what they're doing.
And in this situation, they were more expensive than the competitor,
yeah,
and so they could see that it would be worth it, even though they were more expensive.
Right.
And I mean, to me, that's I think it's okay to be more expensive than your competitor. And I also think like the question, why are you more expensive, is extremely important to your product or service and kind of understanding. I mean, if you are cheaper than all your competitors, it's not necessarily a good thing. I mean, the race to the bottom is harsh. You know what I mean? Because it goes so low. So like to me, the question, why are you more expensive? And like I love asking that to clients and seeing what their explanation is. That I like the phrase price high and justify, because you're making sure that you have like figuring out why you are priced higher is really important to explain on your website as well, and for people to know. And you know, figuring out what added benefits you can add. If you are pricing high and you can't justify it, figure out why. Figure out how to justify that, and to figure out what I can add to the product or service to make it more valuable. Yeah. Clearly, there's a ceiling to that, but you know, some people just you're pricing so low that it's very hard to offer something above and beyond you know what people are expecting. Yeah.
No, I don't have anything else. You guys have any questions at all over what we said? Anything over web design or branding?
I have a question. Can you tell me or us about like stock photos? Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
How do you get them? Like, what do? Can you get them for free? I'm very cheap on, so how does that work?
Yeah, so a lot of the time I go to, there's free stock photo sites that I go to. What is, I can't even think about it. I have them all bookmarked. So
to me, I think that there's one in like Fast Company or something that talks about all the different services. So I always reference that blog post and go to the different ones. They have different specialties and things like that. Some of them are lifestyle, some of them are like nature or whatever. And then there's another one that I really like. It's called Death to Stock Photo, and it's kind of a subscription thing. And then they send you them, and they're always like really well done, kind of like a little bit hipstery, but not too much. I don't know. It's great.
The right amount of hipster.
Yeah, exactly. A mustache, but not a
there's one in particular. That
man bun. I don't know.
It's like Unstoppers.
What was the site that you said that had a list of all of them?
I have I don't know. It's like a blog post that I have.
Oh.
So I just Google it and like find one that references a lot of them, and then I bookmark that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. No magic bullet on that though. It's almost better. Like I love to take photos myself as much as I possibly can. The stock photos essentially can get bad really quick. Like people yeah, they look like stock photos. Don't do the obvious ones. Don't do the ones where it's like all white. And not
With the girl wearing the white shirt. Like,
just try to avoid it. Like try to make it not look like it's stock photos. That's the hardest part. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish you know what I'll do? I'll tweet my favorite resource on that as soon as I can think of the name of it. But as soon as I'm done.
Brenna French on Twitter, everyone.
Yeah. I will tweet my favorite resource for free stock photos.
And I can
Isn't
add to
Unsplash one of them?
What is it?
Unsplash.
Yes, I think that's what it is that I'm thinking of. Thank you.
You're welcome. Got you. It's the
Unsplash.
shades.
Yeah, we got it going on. Yeah, yes, that's a very good one.
Any other questions?
We were told in the social media one that you guys could tell us why we need to be utilizing Pinterest and what the best way to do that would be. Photos, tagging, anything.
I'm going to go talk to them right now.
They said you guys are, because the whole, like with the whole branding, your posts and branding, all that stuff, what do we...
So like you write a blog post and like what's the best way to go about putting it out on like Pinterest?
And getting traffic from Pinterest.
Yeah.
Well, I have, a couple of things. I've had it built into my site, and I've had to do that for people before. There's a plugin for Pinterest, the hover Pinterest thing, for WordPress. And there's also, for myself, I took that off my website because I found it a little like ostentatious or whatever. It's just always popping up.
Yeah.
Um,
I hate seeing those on websites.
Yeah, it's
like
a
when
little
you're
annoying
when you're
sometimes.
scrolling and you're
Yeah.
on a picture and then
Yeah.
it says pin it, and I don't want
No.
to. I don't want to do that.
But I
Stop
do-
telling me to pin your picture.
But I do it through a plugin on my Chrome browser for my own posts. I'll just go back and I'll use that Chrome browser, and I'll just pin, because I'm trying to get as many of my images on Pinterest in the categories I've kind of like, I'm already pinning stuff. So I use that for my own posts now. I don't have the plugin built in, but
Do you recommend any like PicMonkey? I think Morgan mentioned.
Yeah.
But do you recommend any other?
we on this blog post that we put up the kind of outline of our talk. We talk about PicMonkey, Blog Stump, and Canva.
Oh, for use it for Pinterest as well.
Well, for featured images in general.
Okay.
And I think Blog Stump is picture collages, and the other two are like more like text on top of images. It's hard for us to really give a good suggestion on that because we use Photoshop and Illustrator most of the time. So, but yeah, I think Morgan's a great person to look to, and she loves PicMonkey. And
It's the most
Does anybody
user-friendly.
use
I mean, I use
PicMonkey?
Canva and PicMonkey, and PicMonkey is by far more
yeah.
user-friendly, but Canva has so many more options to make it more customizable and more unique to your site. So I always tell them, definitely start out with PicMonkey because literally a monkey could do it.
Right.
But once
so awesome.
no, but like once you get more comfortable with it, I've really enjoyed using Canva lately, and I use it for like personal use too, and making like printouts for like decor in my house and everything. You just get so much more customization with it. So, and I've never heard of the other one, so I'll have to check that one out.